Labos, Chinky Poos, Muzzies, graffiti, piercings, jeans, tattoos, and no obese fatzos. All the kiddies slim and bright-eyed, now utterly gone with the wind.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And the row surrounding Barry Spur's remarkable emails could soon bring a change to Australia's privacy laws. The now notorious Sydney University professor, who was an advisor to the government's curriculum review, is taking action in the federal court against online news site New Matilda for publishing his correspondence, on the basis he has a right to keep it private. And the battle has lawyers in a lather of excitement.
What will be decided if this case goes to trial is the balance that must be struck between two important competing interests. The right of human autonomy, being an individual's right to keep certain information about themselves private, versus the right of expression, the right of the public to know of matters in the public interest.
Should Professor Spur win, he will not only change or clarify the law, he could also get substantial damages, because he's been suspended from his job and his reputation is in tatters as a result of revelations like this.
In leaked university emails, Australia's only poetry professor, Barry Spur, describes our Prime Minister as an abo lover who'd need to be surgically separated from Australian of the Year Adam Goodes. Democracy icon Nelson Mandela is labelled a darkie, Archbishop Desmond Tutu a witch doctor, and modern-day Brits the scum of the earth.
And that is just for starters.
He likens Methodists to serpents, refers to women as whores, and in response to a comment about a female victim of a serious sexual assault being a worthless slut, he suggests that she needs more than just penis put in her mouth before it's stitched up.
Professor Spur claims in his defence that his emails, sent from his work address at Sydney University, were
largely to one recipient with whom I have had a whimsical linguistic game for many years of trying to outdo one another in extreme statements. These statements are not reflections of my views or his.
But what does whimsical mean? Well, one dictionary defines it as
playfully quaint or fanciful, especially in an appealing and amusing way.
We doubt if many would think Spur's remarks fit the bill. Here's his verdict on the 2014 Australian of the Year, Adam Goodes.
An Aborigine, a sportsman, footballer, his mother one of the stolen generation, ticking all the correct boxes. Now all we need to know is that he suffers from depression and has a disability, and he becomes the complete role model for Australians today.
So, does Professor Spur have a right to keep his emails and opinions private? Or does the public have a right to know what this prominent academic and advisor to the government really thinks? And what could settle the question? Spur's lawyers are using a number of arguments, but experts tell Media Watch that his best chance of success lies with the common law. Now, it's often said the law gives Australians no right to privacy, and that's true. But in practical terms, it offers something very close, because breaches of confidence are protected. And the law is much more powerful than you'd think, as you can see from the precedents. 10 years ago in Britain, Naomi Campbell won damages from the UK Daily Mirror for breach of confidence after it published pictures of her coming out of a Narcotics Anonymous meeting.
The Daily Mirror had argued its report was in the public interest. Editor Piers Morgan pouring scorn on the decision, saying this is a very good day for lying, drug-abusing prima donnas who want to have their cake with the media and the right to then shamelessly guzzle it with their Cristal champagne.
Even though Campbell was photographed in a public place, the House of Lords agreed her confidence had been breached because she wanted details of her drug addiction and treatment to remain private. Remarkable, eh? But it's not just in Britain that such principles apply. In 2008, a Victorian woman, Alla Giller, won damages for breach of confidence over the distribution of a sex tape by her former boyfriend.
A woman whose boyfriend filmed them having sex and tried to distribute the tape to her friends, family and employer has been awarded $40,000 damages for breach of confidence in an Australian first.
Significantly, that Victorian Supreme Court ruling relied on the Naomi Campbell case for direction. And since then, the barrister who won the action, Michael Rivett, has stopped numerous stories where confidence would have been breached by publication. Only we never get to hear of them.
I've had unbelievable wins, and in any other area I'd be front page news half the time. But I have all these cases where it's totally suppressed.
The essential element of stopping such stories, or winning damages, is that confidential information is involved. According to Rivett,
finances, sexuality, medical and health conditions
are all likely to qualify. And this brings us to another privacy or breach of confidence action that is still before the courts.
Holly's big news.
Yes, I'm pregnant. Aussie actress Holly Valance proudly showed off her baby bump in an itty-bitty bikini last week on the Italian Riviera.
Holly Valance was not proudly showing off her baby bump in photos we can't show you. She was on the wrong end of a telephoto lens, and she did not want her big news in Women's Day at all. Which is why, during a hearing to have the magazine withdrawn, Justice Michael Pembroke told the New South Wales Supreme Court,
I am abundantly satisfied there is a serious question to be tried as to the plaintiff's underlying cause of action.
Or, in everyday English, Holly might have prevented publication had she come to court in time, and may now win damages for breach of confidence. So, will this powerful law protect Professor Spur and his racist emails? The early signs aren't good, at least for him. Last week, Justice Wigney told the federal court at a preliminary hearing,
when one looks at the emails published to date, it's very difficult to see what could specifically be described as confidential. They are his emails expressing his opinions. They reveal information relating to his personal thoughts.
But on a full hearing, the judge may well form a different view. Professor Barbara McDonald, who was recently tasked with reviewing Australia's privacy laws for the Law Reform Commission, told Media Watch,
An email is like a letter, and letters are traditionally treated as confidential to the writer and the recipient.
And other cases have certainly treated opinions as confidential, even when widely shared, as Britain's Mail on Sunday discovered in 2005 when it published Prince Charles's private musings about the 1997 Hong Kong handover.
Afterwards, the Prince wrote an account of the handover in his private journal. He entitled it The Great Chinese Takeaway, and at one point he described the Chinese leadership as appalling old waxworks. Last weekend's Mail on Sunday published extracts from the Prince's account, which, the paper said, had been circulated to between 50 and 100 of the Prince's friends and officials.
Prince Charles sued the Mail on Sunday for breach of confidence and won, even though he admitted showing his journal to 21 people. In its judgment, Britain's High Court ruled he had a right to stop his diaries being published even when they were on matters of such public interest. And it stated the important principle that
Information will be confidential if it is available to one person or a group of people and not generally available to others.
So on that basis, Professor Spur would seem to have some chance of success. But what about a defence? Can New Matilda not argue that the public interest should trump his right to privacy in this case? Here, after all, is someone paid by the government to help reform our national curriculum who
Takes aim at bogans, fatzos, muzzies and chinky poos and laments the reality that Australia is less white than it was in the 1950s.
And here is a man who teaches students at one of our major universities, yet writes in an email,
I have long said that about 10% of those currently enrolled at Australian universities should be at a university.
You would have thought the public has a right to know such things, and the argument would carry weight in court. But do not be so sure. As the Law Reform Commission's recent report makes clear, Britain allows a broad public interest defence to breach of confidence actions, but Australia does not. In this country,
Courts considering injunctions to restrain a breach of confidence do not exercise any special caution in the interests of free speech or other broadly defined public interests.
the Commission goes on to say that the existence and extent of a public interest defence is by no means clear and settled in Australia, and that publication of confidential information will generally be stopped unless it uncovers an
iniquity in the sense of a crime, civil wrong, or serious misdeed of public importance.
As a result of this, the Law Reform Commission has recommended a public interest defence should be built into a new privacy law. Former Commissioner Barbara McDonald argues this could actually strengthen the media's right to publish, saying similar changes have had that effect in New Zealand. But the government has already told her it is not interested, and the media are dead against any new law protecting privacy. So, what will happen? Well, when the battle over Spur's emails returns to court in December, it's possible we'll discover that the media's freedom to publish material that is private, but in the public interest, is much more restricted than we thought. And then, Professor McDonald says, perhaps a little optimistically, the case may go up to the High Court.
And the court may well consider whether there should be a broader public interest defence in Australia, as there is in the UK, and effectively change the law.
We will see. But it promises to be a landmark case with important implications for the media and the public. But now, to less serious matters. Let's go to some science news, or what passes for it on News Corp's popular websites.
Science.
Crabzilla, spotted off the coast of Britain.
That's not Sandbank, that's Crabzilla.
The story of a giant crab off the coast of Kent was an internet sensation 2 weeks ago. And News Corp's tabloids, The Telly, Courier Mail and Herald Sun all gave it a run online. Under science and technology, of all things. Fairy tales, hoaxes, or the garbage bin might have been a better bet. The photo on which the story was based was lifted from Weird Whitstable, whose wacky website is clearly just a bit of fun. There are pictures of a
Floating ghost head.
and of a local
Sea fort serpent.
and several, of course, of the
Giant crab.
whom Weird Whitstable's creator, artist Quentin Winter, claimed to have encountered face-to-face last year.
It had glazed blank eyes on stalks, swivelling wildly, and it clearly was a massive crab with crushing claws.
Obvious nonsense though it was, the Crabzilla story was picked up by Britain's Sunday Express on the 12th of October, from where it was immediately pounced on by the Daily Mail online, and by breakfast time on Monday it was duly making landfall in Australia. Within hours, it was being exposed as a hoax on at least 5 different websites.
It's fake.
With Waffles at Noon pointing out that the 15-metre monster was created with Bing Maps, a small crab, and Photoshop. But despite this crushing demolition, Crabzilla still led the front page of Britain's Daily Star next day.
Crabzilla.
50-foot giant crab spotted off Kent coast.
Exclusive.
And far from being exclusive, the whole world now had its claws into the story, as Weird Whitstable soon noted with pride.
Metro, Kent Messenger, Mail Online, Gawker, Independent, news websites in Australia, Germany, Serbia, Norway, New York, Huffington Post, India, Brazil, Sweden, all sorts of places all over the world, too numerous to mention. Then to Japan's morning bird show on Asahi TV, and last night to BBC's Have I Got News for You?
In Australia, of course, it was on all those News Corp websites. And strangely enough, their story was 90% identical to the Mail Online's.
This seaside town might be famed for its oysters, but this incredible image could soon have visitors flocking to Whitstable.
News Corp even repeated the Mail's mistake. It should be Whitstable. In this case, it seems News hadn't stolen the story, but had bought it from an agency without knowing where it came from. But why did they bother? Some readers wanted to know.
If you believe that, boy, do I have a bridge to sell you in the middle of Sydney Harbour.
To its credit, News Corp's websites all added a sentence right at the end to say,
So we're betting this 15-metre Crabzilla is the work of one very talented Photoshopper.
but if they felt like that, why did they run the story at all? As Quentin Winter soon told Kent Online,
I don't think anyone seriously believes there actually is a 50-foot crab in Whitstable. What would it feast on? Fat, juicy Londoners?
pathetic, isn't it? But increasingly nowadays, this sort of stuff is what passes for online news. And you can read more about Crabzilla, if you can bear to, and about Professor Spur and privacy on our website, where you can also get a transcript and download the programme. You can also catch up with us on iView and contact me or MediaWatch on Twitter. But until next week, that's all from me. Goodbye.